Welcome. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar to talk about Google Maps Gallery. We're going to be talking to you a bit about how Google Maps Gallery can help make your mapping data more discoverable. Joining me, I have Wei Liu from our team at Google, who's one of our data strategists, as well as Frank Biasi, who is Director of Digital Development at National Geographic Maps, and you can see him there on the right, as well as Chris Moore, CIO from the City of Edmonton, who's also on the right there. They're going to be talking to you a bit in their own words about how they're using Maps Gallery to make their data more discoverable. Google's goal is to organize the world's information, and in the mapping space, we've done this by producing a very high-quality, comprehensive base map with global coverage. And as you can see here, we didn't always have that. It's taken a long time for us to get to a point where we have good quality data everywhere. But even with the data that we have today, it is relatively focused on a core set of use cases that meet most consumers' needs. We have great information on places of business, imagery and street view data for much of the world, reviews, information on driving directions and public transport directions, and a variety of content. But this is the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more geospatial data out there. Much of it is in your control, or the control of organizations and governments around the world that know essentially sort of what kinds of information people are looking for. And in general, our goal is to help find ways to make that data more discoverable on top of our base map. Google Maps today has over 1 billion users. A third of the internet accesses Google Maps on a monthly basis. Much of that is powered by the 1 million developers who have built Google Maps-based applications around our Google mapping data. Our goal is to make that user base and those users who are looking for that geospatial content and connect them directly with the content providers who have that information so that they can make it more discoverable. And we see lots of examples of this. If you do a search in Google Search or in Google Maps, or if you look at examples of mapping data across the web, much of it's locked away in PDF files, in JPEGs, or doesn't exist at all. And this is an example I'm showing here on screen where in the Colorado fires last summer, individual citizen users were basically creating maps on the fly using our mapping tools to fill in gaps, both in our data as well as in data that existed. In this case, mapping evacuation zones for the ongoing wildfires. They were taking tweets from the local sheriffs essentially and creating maps to better communicate their citizens where they should be going and where they shouldn't be. This is an example where historically Google Maps would never have had this class of information. It's just too hard for us to source. It's too time sensitive, and it doesn't exist. But there obviously is someone in the world who has this information. We want to make it more discoverable. And our general vision is that the organization of this information can be made much more powerful if the people who have this information are able to publish it and make it more discoverable. In this case, for example, we're showing housing affordability US-wide from an organization called PolicyMap. But there are a myriad of other examples. Wildlife habitats, weather information, historic imagery. The sky is the limit with respect to the categories and breadth of geospatial data that is out there that is yet to be really made well discoverable. A few weeks back, we launched Google Maps Gallery as the starting point of this vision that anyone's map should be discoverable. We've worked with a variety of organizations, including both National Geographic Maps and the City of Edmonton, to help showcase their data and make it more discoverable and accessible. You can think about it a bit like YouTube for Maps, essentially allowing publishers who have content to publish the content into Gallery, and by doing so control the styling, the attribution, and ultimately the licensing by which others can then consume this data. This product is integrated directly with Google Earth as well as the major search engines so that this information is much more accessible than it has been historically. How Maps Gallery works is organizations upload and synchronize their data to Google's cloud using a variety of tools and import formats, and that information is then published out to our various Google properties that present mapping data, including other major search engines. The gallery is powered by Google Maps Engine, our platform for authoring custom maps. But the content can come from many sources, including other legacy systems, other open data portals, or anywhere else where you have, host, and showcase your data. We work with a variety of companies to basically allow you to synchronize your data using a standard set of APIs into our cloud. Now I'm going to talk through sort of the principles and sort of way we think about how we want organizations to use and take advantage of this capability to better serve their missions, whether it's commercial outreach of content, reaching citizens who are important stakeholders in their data, or in general just achieving the mission of their organization. The goal of Maps Gallery is to let organizations who have content put the data in the hands of those who need it. In the case of a local government, that might be citizens. In the case of a commercial organization, that might be prospective customers. Our goal is to let that data shine through and make it more discoverable across these various properties. You can take advantage of everything that is in Google Maps as a base map to layer on and basically improve the overall quality of how your data is presented. In this case, we're presenting three-dimensional terrain data draped over Google Maps terrain in Google Earth. But in many cases, just presenting your data next to our official base map, our place information, our road data, is sufficient and adds great quality to your data. You have complete control over styling, and you can do sort of essentially whatever basically allows your data and your mission to shine through. In this case, a geological map of the U.S., this organization is essentially highlighting sort of how they want the data to show, but they're using our modern base map to eventually present that data in context. Because this is built on Google's Geo platform, you can essentially maintain and modify this data on the fly. Programmatically, if you want to make the map up to date, currently, like every 5 minutes, for example, that's not a problem. If you want to have a more static historic snapshot, that's also possible. It's essentially up to you to decide sort of how static or dynamic you want your map to be and how you want to present it. And by taking advantage of this, you can essentially control the attribution, the branding, and the licensing of this content. If you want to associate an open data license with this content, you are more than welcome to do so. If you want to associate a more non-commercial enterprise relevant license, you can also do that. You can essentially put the branding and attribution next to your content that you think is important in your organization's context. And by building on the power of Google Maps, you take advantage of the same infrastructure that we're using to serve consumer maps at tremendous scale. In the event of a crisis or an emergency situation, your maps will be shown despite that elevated level of focus and adoption by your citizens and stakeholders. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wei Liu, who's going to walk through the major features of the gallery, and then we're going to talk through how this is being used by National Geographic and City of Edmonton in their respective contexts.
Hello, this is Wei. I'm going to show you a tour of this Maps Gallery that Jordan just talked about. We're going to switch to a browser. I'm going to show San Jose land use zoning map into the search engine. And scrolling down the page, besides San Jose official sites, I can see link to maps.google.com gallery site. And by clicking on that link, I am taken to the San Jose land use zoning map on Google Maps Gallery. Now, looking at this map, I have a description of the map, which I can also collapse to the right if I want more space. I can zoom in into this map. Clicking on a particular polygon will give you information about what this land use type is about. I can also open up this map in full screen if I want to. Now, scrolling down the page, I want to show everyone what other features are available. Again, there's more description about this map. People can also provide a rating for this map. Here I'm going to, I really like this map, so I'm going to give it 5 stars. I can also look at who actually published this map. If I click on City of San Jose, this is going to take me to the City of San Jose publisher page, and I can see all the maps coming from City of San Jose. Now, if I go back to the map details page again, I can look at under what usage right this map author has set for this map. In this particular case, City of San Jose only wants attribution for their map. In some other cases, some other map provider may set different set of usage restrictions. Now there's another link, view in Google Earth. I'm going to click on this link. This will also open up or download a KML file, which I will save And if I click on open this file, this will launch Google Earth application. And then give it a minute to load. And then to the right of my window, I can see San Jose land use zoning map being loaded into my database. Now, if I zoom into City of San Jose, I can see the same map in Google Earth as well. And in this case, because we're looking at the 3D environment, of course, you can take advantage of all the tilting and the terrain function from Google Earth. Again, clicking on these polygons will give you the same information that you have seen in the map interface or in the browser interface. Now I'm going to switch back to the browser and take a look at some other options available. Oftentimes, once you find a map that you're really excited about, you want to share with other people. If you click on the share button, you can see a link, a direct link to this map that you can then email or forward to other people. Clicking on the embed link will give you a standard iframe widget that you can directly take and insert onto your website. So just as people can insert a YouTube widget to any website, you can take this iframe widget and embed any map on your website as well. And that concludes my demo of the Maps Gallery. With that, I'll give it back to Jordan.
Thanks, Wei. So now, just to make this a bit more personal, we're going to hand it over to Frank Biase to talk a bit about how National Geographic Maps is taking advantage of Maps Gallery. When it comes to maps, thinking about organizations, National Geographic is certainly one of the top ones that comes to mind. And the history and the organization mission of National Geographic is very important to the mapping community. And I'll turn it over to Frank to talk through sort of how Maps Gallery is helping National Geographic think through making maps more discoverable.
Well, thanks, Jordan. Yeah, we are quite excited to be participating in the Maps Gallery effort. We feel as though it fulfills both our mission of inspiring people to care about the planet and getting knowledge about the world out to the world, as well as the business goals that we have in our publishing businesses. So National Geographic Society was founded in 1888, just over 125 years ago, by this distinguished looking group of Victorian gentlemen, explorers and academics and scientists, and they sent people out around the world, funded expeditions and research and exploration to gather knowledge and map and research the world, and then to share and publish that information through our magazine. An example of one of the explorations that we funded was of the Orinoco River, and this was a map that we produced in 1896 showing the tributaries and the distribution of the network of the Orinoco River. We funded over 10,000 expeditions and explorations and research projects around the world. Here's a map that we produced at the time of World War II. I think this was published in 1944. At the time, it was the most detailed map of Germany that had been published, and the Allied Command used this map in their planning and tracking of the invasion of Germany. And we've used our maps that we've published through the magazine and through other media to educate Americans about the world. So here's a kind of a similar map from the Vietnam War era, where we created and published a very detailed map of Southeast Asia to show Americans where the battles were happening, where their brothers and fathers and sons were fighting in Vietnam. In the same time frame, I believe it was on the reverse side of that map, we produced this map that was more focused on the people and the cultures of Southeast Asia to help inform people about the people that we were fighting with and against in that area. So it's something that was very much a part of our mission, a part of our publishing effort, is producing maps and as well as other types of media. Today, our mission has been updated somewhat from the increase and diffusion of geographic knowledge in the Victorian age to inspiring people to care about the planet. Most people are familiar with National Geographic through our magazines and films and channels, but we've also they are not necessarily aware that we've been producing maps for over a century through the magazine. So things like thematic maps in the magazine, as well as reference wall maps and atlases of worldwide, as well as different countries and regions, trail and outdoor recreation maps covering various the major outdoor recreation areas across North America, and travel and adventure maps covering many other parts of the globe. So we've been producing these sorts of maps and publishing them for quite a long time, and we see this very much, this Maps Gallery effort, as a way to increase the awareness and access to our maps. So it again fulfills our mission, as well as our retail business for print map publishing, and the profits from which go to support our nonprofit mission. So these are the other media outlets that National Geographic is using. But as I said before, most people are not aware that we are one of the world's largest publishers of maps, and so this is one way of increasing that awareness and access to those maps. We've loaded over 500 maps into Google Maps Engine and published most of those through Maps Gallery, which is not only useful for increasing the awareness and discoverability of our maps and getting people and allowing people to preview them, but it also allows us to be able to embed those interactive live maps in our own websites. Here's an example of one of the maps that we've embedded in our Maps homepage, and to allow people to preview the maps, whether they're interested in print maps or licensing digital data from us. So as I said, we're currently using it as an educational publishing effort to support our mission, but also as a way to market our print and map licensing businesses. We've just gotten started with this recently, so it's still new. We've been focused very much on georeferencing and describing and getting the maps into Maps Engine, just beginning to embed them in our websites. And I would say we're most excited about the ability, much increased ability for our maps to be discovered through search engines, and just to make the world more aware of all these maps that we've published over the years, to be able to use them for educational purposes, and to find out about our print maps. So thank you. We very much appreciate being able to participate in this and participate in Map Gallery. Oh, if we can go to actually our publisher page, the National Geographic publisher page, you can see, you can sort of do a search, it's a keyword search, and browse through the 500 or so maps that we've published here. You can click on the Africa maps over time. Here's an example of one where we've actually combined several of our Africa maps that we produced over time into a single map. So there are multiple layers. There's a layer for each of our map titles going back to 1909 through the years up to our current classic reference map. We have some of our thematic maps, like the Africa landscape map we published in 2005. So we love being able to adjust the transparency and see the Google base map below. Here's a thematic map that we produced as a magazine supplement. Also in 2005, we did, on the other side of that map, we did the human footprint map, which is a pretty neat map showing human impact. So we think there's a lot of educational value in these maps, and we look forward to hearing from people and seeing how people are using these maps over the coming years.
Thank you very much, Frank. So we've heard from National Geographic, which is obviously one very classic organization that's well associated with maps. We're going to go completely in another direction now and talk to Chris Moore, CIO of the City of Edmonton. Edmonton's the capital of Alberta in Canada. And Chris is going to talk a bit about how Edmonton is using Maps Gallery to further their open data mission and really make their content citizen accessible and citizen relevant. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jordan. And thank you as well for the opportunity to not just be on the webinar today, but the opportunity for us to share our information and to join you in that mission, to help people discover the world's data. As you said, we're the capital of Alberta, and if people want more information about Edmonton, they can just Google us, and there's a lot of great information, and you should check out our YouTube channel, some fascinating stuff there. So just to give some context, we do have 82 maps loaded in the Maps Gallery, and as Jordan said, all of that data comes from our Open Data Catalog. In 2009, we started putting information kind of on the web, if you will. It's when we loaded up our transit schedules. We were part of the Google Transit initiative back then. And in January 2010, we launched our Open Data Catalog. And we're a 109-year-old organization. We're a city. People expect transparency and access to information. And really, the ability to use, whether it's Open Data or Google Maps Gallery, is just the continuation of our desire to be open and transparent with the information that we have. That is publicly available. So we launched the data catalog in January of 2009. We had 12 data sets. It's grown over the last 4 years to 415 data sets and visualizations, and 4,500 page views per day, which I find amazing, and I'm sure it will only increase. But it just tells you that there's a real thirst for information. One of the other things that we've been working on since 2012, and we implemented in early 2013, was Google Apps for Business as an organization. We've moved our email to Gmail and Calendar in the cloud. Our objective there was so people could have the tools they need to do their job. The Google Apps for Business suite and email is a part of our productivity suite for our over 12,000 employees. And our desire is for them to have tools where it's easy to create information and share that together. The screen you're seeing right now is our dashboard. And the dashboard provides you with information about services that we deliver to citizens on a daily basis. You can see transit security, neighborhood snow blading, transit ridership. These measures are there in 6 forms: the way we move, live, green, grow, prosper, and finance. Those are the 6 sector plans within our 30-year strategy of the way ahead. It's really important for us not just to provide the data, the ability to load it into an app, the ability to visualize it on the map, but to also put that data into a dashboard, and people can click and drill down and see even more information. So the partnership we have around getting our open data into the Maps Gallery is with Socrata. Our data catalog is currently running on the Socrata engine. We use the Safe FME synchronization workflow as a connector to get it to the Google Maps engine and then up on the gallery. Our objective really is to create a process that's automated and seamless, and so we can continue to provide the open data changes. Some of it changes daily, some of it only changes quarterly or annually, but we want to have the most current and accurate information in the Maps Gallery, and we've been happy to be working with Socrata, Safe, and Google to be able to, as Jordan said earlier, make data more discoverable. So I want to just drill into one specific gallery map, which is the tree species. So Way, if you can click on the link and open up that would be great. We have recorded in our Open Data Catalog and visualized on the Maps Gallery over 300,000 of our trees that we have. There we go, thank you. Just leave it at that level for now. That'd be great. You'll see roughly the city of Edmonton there. There's a ring road that's almost built that goes around the city that roughly outlines the boundaries. And then around Edmonton, there's another 24 towns and cities that make up the Edmonton capital region. You can see all the blue dots are trees. As I said, we have 300,000 of them. You can just zoom in right where you have the cursor. That'd be fantastic. You'll see as we zoom in closer, you can see the river. That's the North Saskatchewan River. We're very fortunate in Edmonton. The water we drink comes from water that is melting from glaciers in the Rocky Mountains. And it actually ends up back in the river cleaner than we took it out. But the river is a very unique feature in our city. The river and what's in the river valley is the largest urban conservation area in North America. I believe it's 25 times larger than Central Park. As much as it looks like there's trees recorded in the river valley, we're actually missing many trees in the river valley. Our forestry staff are working on some technology, maybe drones, who knows, to be able to capture all the trees, because some of the banks are quite steep in the river valley. But if you just kind of hover over or click on one of the trees, you can see the detail that comes up there. So it tells you, that particular tree is a Colorado spruce. Talks about diameter, condition, and which neighborhood it's in. Thank you so much for that. If you want to go back to the slides, that'd be great. One of the things that we've got our 300,000 trees there. It's a very popular data set. We're very excited to see how people will use and access that as they access the Maps Gallery, as they access those data points in Google Earth. And our forestry folks, as they're working on collecting the trees in the river valley, they're actually building an app that's going to be available to Edmontonians, so people on their private property can record and collect the trees. And it's really important. I mean, trees are a huge asset of ours as a city. And they play a key role in purifying the air and managing the environment. Some of the other data sets that we won't look at in the Maps Gallery, but I have to tell you, our most popular one is the street construction projects. You're seeing our 2013. We'll update that shortly with 2014 once those projects are determined. But this is our most popular data set, and I think it's because people want to find out kind of what's happening. When is something happening? When is a crosswalk being installed, a street light, a traffic light being installed, or when are they widening a road? So people are very interested in that as they move around the city. Okay, you'll see as well some of the other more popular maps. So bylaw infractions, if people are curious about, maybe they called in a concern, is it recorded, is it known, what's happening with it. Our map of graffiti, you might look at that and think we have a lot, but you could measure that against other cities and other factors. The annual weekday traffic volumes is very interesting. We have mobile units that we move around and attach and reattach to the traffic lights and to light poles to actually count and distinguish between cars, trucks, bikes, and count the vehicles. That's really important for us as a city in terms of planning and design and traffic management. But we also believe it's very important for individuals who may want to have advertising or change a sign on a building, and actually tells you how many eyeballs are going past your property or your sign. Wading pools, another popular, not so popular right now because it's still a little cold, but spring is here, and in a month or two, the wading pools will be a huge feature for people. So looking forward for us, we want to continue to meet expectations of citizens, of tourists, people that travel through, but also people that are just interested in our information from afar and maybe doing research. We are one of the most robust cities and economies in the country. We've got huge growth happening in terms of people and the economic sustainability, so there's a lot of people moving here, and the more information that's available for them to discover, especially if they're thinking about relocating, let alone visiting, is really important. Open government is a huge focus of ours. We've been open since 1905, but we're using some of these tools to make things even more open and more accessible. And we want to extend our reach and have better reach. We believe the information we have, much like Frank spoke about in terms of National Geographic, is hugely valuable, very important, and we want to be able to get that to everybody and anybody who's looking for that information. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Jordan.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's exciting to hear all these use cases. So with that, we're gonna wrap up. I mean, we've tried to showcase sort of what we're trying to do with Maps Gallery and sort of directionally where we're going around making this content much more discoverable in a variety of forms and tools, and tried to use sort of both Frank and Chris's experiences and their organization's missions as ways to illustrate sort of the kinds of things that people are doing with these tools. In general, we are much like YouTube. We're largely indifferent to what kinds of content people choose to use these tools for, and we're often surprised by the diversity and the spectrum of use cases. Everything from archaeological site mapping to historic railway mapping to public statistics, traffic. I mean, you name it. I mean, the diversity and spectrum of content is almost overwhelming. And so with that, we want to encourage you to think about what kinds of content your organization wants to make more discoverable and participate. To get involved in Maps Gallery, there's a link in the upper right corner of the application. So you can go to maps.google.com/gallery, and there's a link entitled "Add Your Organization's Maps." That will take you to an application form where you can essentially apply to participate. At this point, we're accepting applications, based on public data use cases. The more detail you can provide, the better. We go through those and review those on a daily basis. And we have hundreds of organizations at this point participating, and are excited to see your map data, as part of our program and the gallery. And with that, we'll thank you again for attending, and thank Chris and Frank for participating, and hand it back to you for questions. Thanks so much.